The cottage sat at the edge of the village, where the grass grew tall and the lantern light didn't reach. Inside, it was warm, the kind of warm that came from soup simmering, wool blankets, and the steady work of a tired mother. But warm didn't mean quiet. The baby brother fussed in his cradle, small fists opening and closing like he was trying to catch something in the air. The eldest sister moved softly, already learning how to be careful with noise. The younger sister yawned and rubbed her eyes, obedient as dusk. And the middle child, the one with the sharp grin and the restless feet, sat awake like it was a victory. She had decided sleep was something she could beat. The first night, she stayed up just to prove she could. She watched the candle burn low. She listened to the baby cry and stop and cry again. She waited for the house to go still. When her mother finally found her, she didn't shout. She only looked older. "Sweetheart," her mother whispered, brushing hair from her face. "Please, I need you to sleep." The middle child didn't understand what that meant. Not really, so she nodded, and then did it again the next night. The second night, her mother's steps were slower, her voice thinner. Her hands shook slightly when she lifted the baby. The middle child watched from the doorway, feeling something she didn't have a name for yet. Not fear, not guilt. Something smaller, something sharper, like the tiniest thorn of maybe I shouldn't have done that. But she still didn't go to bed. She stayed awake because she could, because she was the middle child, and middle children often felt like they had to be loud to be seen. And that third night, the cottage was still warm, but the world outside was wrong. Not loud, not obvious, just wrong. The moon looked too close, as if it had leaned down toward the village rooftops to listen. The stars shimmered strangely, like grains of sand scattered across black cloth. Even the air smelled faintly dry, like dust warmed by a sun that wasn't there. And the wind didn't howl. It whispered, not words, just sleep. The mother rocked the baby in the dim light, eyes half closed with exhaustion. The eldest sister was already in bed. The younger sister curled beneath her blanket, breathing slow, and still the middle child sat up, knees hugged tight, chin raised, stubborn as a locked door. Her father came in quietly. He didn't scold her. He didn't shout. He sat beside her like her small rebellion was not an enemy, but a storm he wanted to guide away from shore. "You've taken 2 nights," he said softly. The middle child shrugged. "It's not hard," she whispered. "I'm not tired." Her father's gaze flicked toward the baby, who had finally fallen asleep against their mother's shoulder. Then he looked back at his daughter. His voice lowered. "Do you know what the elders say happens when children borrow too many nights?" The middle child's eyes lit up. "A story. Finally, nothing happens," she said quickly, pretending she didn't want it. "It's just sleep," her father exhaled through his nose. "Maybe," he said, and then, after a pause, "or maybe it's like the legend." The candle crackled, the wind whispered at the window, and the father began. He told her about the Sandman, not the kind made of lullabies, the kind the village only spoke of when the sky felt too close. "He comes," her father said, "when a child refuses rest too many times." The middle child scoffed, but her hands tightened around her knees. "He doesn't come angry," her father continued. "He comes patient." The middle child swallowed. "He carries a sack, her father said, and inside is sand. Not for sleep, but for work. Her eyes narrowed. Work, her father nodded. He takes the ones who stay awake, he said, to his sandcastle beyond the edge of dreaming. The middle child leaned forward without meaning to. And there, her father whispered, he makes them dig. Dig what? She asked. Her father's mouth didn't smile. His magic dust, he said. The kind that falls into eyes and makes mornings disappear. The middle child laughed too quickly. That's stupid, she said, but her voice cracked at the end like thin ice. Her father reached out and gently touched her hair. It's only a story, he said. But his eyes didn't look like it was only a story. Go to bed, he told her softly, before something else decides when you rest. The middle child stared at him. Then she stared at the window, at the moon too close, at the sand stars, at the wind that whispered like a secret. She lifted her chin. I'm not scared, she said. And when her father left, she stayed awake out of pride. She listened to the cottage settle, to the baby's tiny breathing, to her mother's tired sigh. The middle child told herself she was winning. Then her eyelids grew heavy, not suddenly, slowly, like sand filling a cup one grain at a time. She fought it. She blinked. Just once. And the world tipped sideways. She stood in a place made of pale dunes and broken silence. A sand castle rose ahead, massive, jagged, ancient, not pretty, not playful. It looked like something built by hands that didn't need warmth. The sky above was colorless. No sun, no moon, only a dim light like the world was holding its breath. And in the distance, she heard it. Scrape, 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 scrape. Shells against sand. Children digging. The middle child turned slowly. A figure stood behind her, tall, thin, draped in something that moved like drifting dust. His face wasn't a face. It was a suggestion, a shadow where eyes should be, a smile made of absence. The Sandman. He did not grab her. He did not shout. He simply held out a shell, small, smooth, harmless looking, and when she took it, her fingers felt cold. Dig, the Sandman whispered. His voice sounded like wind through dry grass. The middle child wanted to say no, but her arms moved anyway. She dug and dug and dug. The sand wasn't soft. It was heavy, like ash. Her hands burned. Her back ached. She tried to stop, but the shell stayed in her grip like it belonged there. Time passed, strangely. The sky never changed. She couldn't tell when she slept or when she woke, only that her exhaustion grew teeth. She began to cry, but her tears vanished into the sand before they could fall. She thought of her mother, not angry now, just tired. She thought of the baby's small cries, of her father's gentle voice. She thought, I only wanted to feel strong. And then she realized, in this place, strength didn't matter, only obedience. After what felt like 3 days and 3 nights, she stumbled away from the digging pits. No one stopped her. No one helped her. The Sandman didn't chase. He didn't need to, because the dunes themselves was a cage. Her legs shook. Her throat hurt. Her eyes stung like she had sand behind them. And then she saw it. A pen made of worn wooden posts, half buried in the dunes. Inside it lay a sheep, Not a normal sheep, a huge sheep. Its body rose and fell like a sleeping hill. Its wool looked thick enough to hide inside. Its eyes were closed. Its breathing was slow, real, warm. The middle child stepped into the pen, trembling. The sheep didn't move. It didn't wake. It simply was. For the first time in what felt like forever, she didn't hear digging. She didn't hear shells scraping. She didn't hear the Sandman whispering. Only the soft sound of a creature resting. The middle child pressed her face into the wall, and something inside her broke, not loudly, quietly, like a knot loosening. "I'm sorry," she whispered, not even sure to who. Then she curled beside the sheep, and finally, she slept. "Sweetheart," her mother's voice, warm, real, hands brushing her cheek. The middle child jolted awake. She was back in the cottage. Her blanket was tangled. Her hair was messy. Her mouth tasted dry. Sunlight poured through the window. Not morning light. Afternoon light. Late. The kind of light that meant she had missed the day. She sat up fast, heart hammering. Her mother's eyes were rimmed with tiredness, but softer now. "You fell asleep," her mother said gently. "You didn't even make it to midnight." The middle child opened her mouth to argue, to deny it, to say she hadn't slept. But something was wrong. Her hand hurt. She looked down. Her fingers were clenched tight, like she'd been holding on to something for dear life. Slowly, she opened her palm. A small tuft of sheep's wool lay there, grey, white, soft, real. Her mother didn't notice it at first, but the middle child did, and her stomach dropped like a stone into water, because she remembered the sand castle, the shell, the digging, the huge sleeping sheep, and the Sandman's voice like whispering sleep. She didn't laugh this time. She didn't smirk. She just stared at the wool until her eyes filled. Not with fear, with understanding, because she finally knew what her father meant. Sleep wasn't something you could defeat. It was something that kept you safe. And when you refused rest, something else took it for you. That is why the village still warns their children when the sky looks strange, when the moon hangs too close, when the stars shimmer like sand, when the air smells dry as dust, and the wind whispers like a secret. When you refuse rest, something else takes it for you, because the Sandman doesn't steal children. He steals their mornings.